Gil Galad, for some reason I'm not exactly 100% sure on, doesn't want to send forces to Eregion. After Galadriel got captured, Elrond is running back to Gil Galad and telling him the whole story. Galadriel was right. Of course, it's because of Galadriel that we're even in this situation, but that's not important right now, I guess. And the orcs are headed for Eregion. Also, Gil Galad in this episode was so frustrating. He has such office manager vibes. First of all, there's this one scene, this is the first time we see him in this episode, where the commander of the southern armies is giving him a briefing about something about the bad stuff that's going down. I don't know. And she's telling him what the deal is. She's just having this conversation by herself. He's just literally a bump on a log, standing there all stoic, doesn't say a word. I think he says maybe 2 lines in this whole episode. So she's just having this conversation by herself. And then that scene's over. And then at the end, when Elrond comes to further brief him about what the situation is, their lost company, and that they failed to reach Eregion, and telling him about the orcs are coming, he just says no. Our forces would be split. We can't both go to Mordor and Eregion. So he says no to Eregion. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Oh god, I didn't want to watch it again to double check. He just says no, and there's no compelling reason given. Your borders and your friends and all that should be your first priority, and they're closer to you than going to Mordor right now. What's the most urgent priority here? So this is all just to forcibly lead up to the siege of Eregion, supposedly. I'm still not sure. Because it's so drastically different than how events actually unfold. So I don't even know what to expect. Yeah, again, just complete office manager energy. It's so frustrating to see High King Gil Galad reduced to this. And he's basically useless in this episode just to be, just to be indignant for some reason. I'm so frustrated how this is unfolding for him. He just, again, comes across as not strong, not wise, all of the classic characteristics. He's kind of a charisma vacuum. Like, he's just there to look stoic. And he has basically nothing to do with the show except to just fawn over Galadriel and to make excuses for her. Gil Galad was beloved and wise and a great warrior. Yeah, so it's really frustrating. So he barely says anything this whole episode, and what he does say is just so frustrating. Why they're not sending forces to Eregion, why all this is taking place is just so forced. Rings of Power is like this one kid at school that tries really hard to be cool, but everyone can tell. And also there's this other thing that this episode made clear to me that's very unusual, is how did Celebrimbor's letter to Gil Galad, that said that he's shutting down the forges and all that, how did that letter make it? How did that message end up making it to him, and pretty expediently? But then when they tried to send messengers to check up on him, then they can't get through. Then they can't make it. And they're also can't get there in a timely manner. That really annoyed me when I figured that out. Like, oh yeah, how is it so difficult? It was nothing for Celebrimbor's message to make it to Gil Galad, but now the other messengers going to his direction can't make it. And you can't even blame Sauron, because it wasn't Sauron, it was Barrow-wights. He even took his cape off so he could run faster. Oh yeah. Everything goes around Galadriel in this show. See, she is a black hole, and the gravity has captured the rest of the characters in its gravity well. Oh yeah, and yes, we saw Galadriel at the very end. Okay, so once Elrond briefs Gil Galad about the situation, and he's just being, for some reason, for plot reasons, I'm sure, so plot can happen. So Siege of Eregion can happen. He's not going to send his forces there, because we need the battle to happen. It's just so different. I mean, it's just so different from what's established in the lore. I honestly don't know if this is what it's leading to. I think it is, but it's just happening so different. I'm honestly unsure. So the orcs are seen in just at the borders. They can see Eregion. They're coming through the forest, and they're there. Orcs are there, and stuff's about to go down. A big battle's going to happen, which apparently will take up the rest of the season. And next we cut to Galadriel, who was captured. She let herself be captured. She gave her ring to Elrond, so she doesn't have that. And then they let her out, and it's the one orc, the sympathetic orc with a family, lets her out. He's a very different presenting character this time around. I guess he's full on wanting to love war when it's necessary for plot. So they let her out of her cage, and she pulls out this prison shank from her hair. I think from her hair, or I don't know. I mean, she doesn't have anything in her hair, it looks like, but I don't know. She pulled it out of somewhere. And she's like 5 foot nothing. So to see her get the upper hand and see Adar in a headlock is so, it's just so silly. I can't. So he proposes an alliance, and she's seriously considering it. So that's what's happening. Galadriel is allying with the orcs. And I guess the purpose of them going to Eregion is to get Sauron. They have a common enemy, so they want to eliminate Sauron. Work together, the enemy of my enemy, and whatnot. It's so different. I don't understand. Sauron should be the one leading the orcs against Eregion. So what are we even doing? What are we doing? Or Galadriel. Yeah, they gotta have a new shipping name. Adariel. Adar already has the hots for it. It's just so weird. Oh yeah. I've already seen people shipping them online, so. I dislike modern writing with contrived tension and disagreement between characters. Rather than the story providing tension to create heroes, they create unbelievable and illogical tension. So tedious. Yes, that's a good word, tedious. That's very apt description for this show. Because Galadriel, the Lady of Light, is siding with the orcs. Yep. I don't know how this was allowed. How is this green lighted? How is this okay? So you don't have the rights to tell Tolkien's Second Age stories, but how does that give you the right to just make stuff up that is just so antithetical, so anti-Tolkien in what he wrote? If you can't tell those stories, why don't you just tell something that still fits within those events? I don't know how any of this is okay with the estate. I bet the orcs will be there trying to save the day and they get all misunderstood. Yeah. I mean, that's how they're being portrayed this whole time. They just want to live and exist and have babies. And and it's Galadriel and all them who want to wipe them out unfairly, commit genocide. And now they're teaming up. Now they're all teaming up against Sauron. How this is going to lead up to Siege of Eregion, I don't know how that's going to unfold. And they said it, the book Tolkien never wrote. Yeah, he would have never written this. Because he's an actually competent writer. The godfather of high fantasy.